So at the start we were kind of the underdogs coming from relegations. I think we kind of proved ourselves throughout the first split.
But in the summer split we took a slide. I think we went on a 5 or 6 game loss streak. We managed to go to Worlds anyway, and that was a disaster.
At 23 and a half minutes, and the surrender for Game 2 at World's Group Stages comes in from SK.
It was overall a disappointment for us, but in the end it was also something we had to go through in order to develop, and that's what we're trying to get from it. Just take something from it instead of getting blasted and mind blown by it.
We had to make a change. Forgiven was available, so we took him.
Forgiven is probably gonna be one of the best AD carries in Europe, if not just the best.
He's just overstepping all the time, and he's just doing everything on the limit that the game allows him, and it's just very, very, very intimidating to play with him, and I don't want to know how it is to face him again.
Now Amazing's in trouble, he's taking another tower hit, but he gets away with the safeguard. Oh! From downtown, Forgiven uses the rocket.
I think I'll just go on and play my games. Like, if I fail, I fail. If I am the best, I'm the best.
The mid lane change, I guess you could say a bit more risky, but I think this change will pay off.
Fox is a Swedish player, and he played for SK Prime before. He established himself as one of the best mid laners there, so we just felt he was suiting the team very well. We needed some kind of unity, and that's what he gave us in comparison to other mid laners.
Glad to have this opportunity to show myself finally in the LCS, and I think it's gonna be a really good season for us.
We're going straight for the first places. That's what we aim for. I think top 3 is anything below that we would be disappointed in us.
Well, aiming for top 3. Anything else is going to be a disappointment.
Big
Strong
words
from Enrated.
I mean, we have to agree. If you look at the lineup from SK Gaming, the performance last year, they just became better and better, and now should have gotten 2 upgrades on the lineup as well.
Yeah, 2nd in the spring split, playoffs, 3rd in the summer split. Guys, it is time for a bout between 2 returning LCS teams. It is SK Gaming and ROCCAT. This is the grudge match for ROCCAT because it was SK that secured the spot to Worlds last year by beating them in that 3rd, 4th place decider. The roster has changed, as you mentioned. Those
that was really
upgrades.
one-sided.
It was.
Very one-sided games. Definitely in favor of SK Gaming.
And it was Freddy who was leading the charge last year. He was playing Nidalee extensively at the time. It is, of course, Sven Skjeren returning in the jungle. Fox replaces Jesus in the mid lane. Forgiven, Grease replaces Handy Panda. And, of course, Enrated on the support role.
Yeah, and on the red side, we have ROCCAT now with a few changes as well. Overpower, he's gone to the top lane. Jankos is still in the mid lane. And Nuke Dog, of course, joining in from NIP beforehand. Woolite as the AD carry, and Vander goes on as a support.
Right, well, based on both of the players in these squads, I think expectations are high for both SK and ROCCAT. You have to feel there'll be contenders at the top of the table. Talking about SK to begin with, Fox plus Forgiven is adding some more carry power that SK was lacking a little bit. And I think it might be what they need to really solidify their position or solidify their claim to the top of the table. Fox in particular, definitely a very strong mid laner from the challenger scene in SK Prime.
He was a strong mid laner, but we never really saw him impress against the likes of a Febiven or the likes of a Nuke Dog in the challenger scene. It was more against certain other challenger mid lanes where he actually was very good at snowballing his lead. But coming into the LCS, I'm not really sure what to expect from him because I don't feel like I've seen enough to say, okay, this guy is going to be solid. Febiven, we knew this guy will deliver from the start as long as he's not too nervous. Can't really say the same here. SK Gaming will probably rely on Forgiven and Freddy in the start instead of looking towards this bottom lane, because we know Forgiven can carry games. He's been in the LCS before. When he played for Copenhagen Wolves, it was all about him. Give him all the farm, give him all the kills, and he will just 1v5 the enemy team in the late game. So I'm expecting to see more focus on him than the mid lane itself.
Yeah, and that's the catch, isn't it? In the late game. For somebody like Forgiven, he was never really one that would stamp authority at winning games early to mid. He wanted 5, 6 items and he wanted to push down.
Laning phase for Forgiven. He's the most annoying AD carry to play against ever, because he just perma-pushes the wave. 24/7, he will never stop. And then his jungler sitting ready. If you come in for the gank, counter gank from Sven Skjeren, few kills for SK Gaming, and it's just looking great. So laning-wise, he's a very strong player. mid-game, we're going to see what he can do. He's a very aggressive player, of course,
Yeah.
but normally he shined in the late game.
Well, Reckless has already touted him as one of the most difficult players to play against. We heard in that video a moment ago, N-Rated saying he always oversteps. All right, let's look at ROCCAT
Every
for
time.
a brief moment. They have, of course, removed Xazus from the top lane. They've taken Overpow from the mid lane. They've pushed him up top. They pulled in Nukeduck to replace him, and they've also removed Celiva, replacing him with Woolite, who was the Summer Split Rookie of the Split. I actually think this is a great set of changes to ROCCAT. Overpower's solid, stable performances. You've got Nukeduck, who can play a wide array of champions. He can carry as well, something Overpower struggled with a little bit.
Yeah.
And Woolite is a definite upgrade to Celiva.
I think everyone agrees that ROCCAT is looking a lot stronger, and I was reading about people's opinions going into LCS. Everyone said that ROCCAT has been winning the off-season just by making these changes here. Overpowered IM Cologne actually looked pretty solid in the top lane. He's also one of the shot callers. And at the same time, he plays these somewhat oddball picks. Like, he pulled out a Gangplank, ended up not working for him. But he can surprise people in this top lane here, kind of get them out of their comfort zone. And of course, Nukeduck in the mid lane. This guy, I'm very happy to have him back in the LCS because he makes plays. And a bit like Forgiven, he demands all the attention from his team. He's also one of the main shot callers, so him and Overpower together. And the synergy between him and Jankos, if that ends up working, you have an insanely strong skirmish for ROCCAT in this mid lane, and that can just carry games.
Well, we'll have to see if they can actually make that work. Jankos, of course, one of the best junglers in Europe, especially last year in the Summer Split. He really, really stepped up. And it's interesting to see that Nukeduck is going to be playing with Overpower, considering Nukeduck lost to Overpower in the summer of 2013. It's a very long time ago. Let's give Woolite another brief mention. He's stepped in. He's joined the 3 other Polish players on the team. So it's 4 Poles who are going to be representing ROCCAT. He seems to be quite comfortable and quite happy, at least from talking and from all the interviews that he's been doing. So we'll need to see how well he performs in the Spring Splits.
Very happy, of course, with the changes. He's playing with Vander, one of the best supports we have in Europe as well. So he could be a very strong bottom lane. But at IM Cologne, where we saw ROCCAT play, I actually wasn't too impressed by Woolite. He played way too aggressive, ended up just jumping into teamfights, dying every single time. He needs to sit back a little bit. He needs to calm down, play it a little bit more relaxed, wait for your mid laner to get going, wait for your jungler to make some plays, and just rely on you being this late game AD carry, at least the mid game, and not necessarily being the single carry who has to go all in. Because again, he used to play on Copenhagen and Wolves, where we talk about always the AD carry was the carry. No longer here. He has so many options, so many players from ROCCAT can take the game and just run with it.
Well, we'll have to see how they decide to play it out. The teams are still busy getting set up on stage. It's going to be a close match. There's a lot of expectation on SK and ROCCAT. You guys at home have been voting on lolesports.com. The vote is dead even at 50% per side. Don't forget, we will be doing that hashtag vote once picks and bans are locked in, but we need to get there first. And I think you have to once again reiterate that there is a grudge match on the line here. ROCCAT's chances at going to Worlds were stolen away by SK Gaming dramatically. And for ROCCAT, they can't afford to have the same dip in confidence that they did in the Summer Split. It really, really affected them badly, and they need to start Spring in a good flow if they want to avoid that happening again.
ROCCAT is somewhat of a weird team in the way last year, Spring and Summer, they just said, we want to go in here, we want to just play in the LCS, establish a brand for ourselves. We don't even care about going to Worlds. Of course, we want to go, but it's not our goal at all. So even when they lost to SK Gaming at Gamescom, they weren't even that sad. It was more like, okay, we did a very good job. We got to the top 4. We are happy. Next year, we are now going to make a few changes. Now we're aiming for Worlds. We're aiming for the top position. So they decided to just sit back and, you know, play a little bit more relaxed last year. Now the pressure is on them.
That's actually a great point that you bring up, because all of those rookie teams from 2014 are no longer rookies anymore. Superhard Crew, now MYM, have got experience under their belt. ROCCAT have got 2 full splits. They're no longer able to just coast. Expectations are higher on them.
That's again why they make changes. Looking at the team and say, okay, we have a few weak points. Overpower in the mid lane, he was too passive.
Yeah.
Nothing really came from it. Jankos never really ganked the mid lane either, because why would you in this situation?
Yeah, Overpower could seldom carry.
Exactly. He wouldn't carry a game.
All of the traits that Overpower demonstrated from that mid lane actually work very well in the top lane. If you're
Funny
solid,
enough,
if
he's
you're
in the top
stable,
lane.
who would have guessed?
Wow.
But the one thing that I think both of these teams are going to need to manage, guys, just as a note, we are working on a keyboard-related problem, which we can hopefully get resolved, then we'll get into champ selects. But I think something that both of these teams are going to have to try and manage is a little bit of a personality trait. We know Forgiven is an incredibly emotional player. We know that he gets very invested in his games. And on the same token, NukeDuck can often be very gutsy, very brave in his picks. You mentioned on Primetime League, Swain.
I said a lot of things on Primetime League. Let's just get that one down.
Swain into FLICKR. He picked the Riven into Overpowers Kale, which he ended up losing. So this is a guy.
It's confidence.
Yeah, confidence, but too much
Cockiness
confidence.
Maybe a little bit sometimes. He really believes in his own ability to carry games, and that if he has a secret counter pick, he will pick it, and he doesn't care who's. It doesn't matter who's against. Is it FLICKR? Is it Overpowered? Doesn't matter. He will pick it, and just see if it works for him. So that is NukeDuck as a player. He does say now he's no longer just relying on these counter picks or assassins. Like when we saw him in the summer split 2013, it was Twisted Fate, Ari, Fizz, Zed, all these assassin picks here. Now he's basically saying I can adapt to what my team wants me to play and wants me to pick, and that might mean we're going to see some different picks from NukeDuck. Well,
we'll see if it works out. Talking about ducks, over there on the back right shoulder of Woolite is Ducky. This is, of course, the coach for Team ROCCAT. A moment or two ago, we did see Inner Flame, who is the coach of SK Gaming. It's been interesting to see the coaches interacting both over in Korea and LCK, where they're in the booths with the players and, of course, on stage behind our players here in the EU LCS. The first two games took a very long time to go through those picks and bans. These guys can, of course, get involved in the decision-making, can, of course, advise and make suggestions for what they think should happen. Yes. And it adds complexity to the game.
What we have seen before, and as a former player myself, was remember going into a pick and ban phase, you have a plan. You say, okay, we're going to ban these champions here. We want to try and go for, let's say, a siege comp. And you tunnel so hard on it, you don't really notice what's happening, and you end up actually picking somewhat of a poor composition for yourself. That's where the coaches can go in and make sure everyone rethinks the choice. And that's why it takes such a long time for bans and picks at the moment, because you want to make sure we're doing the right thing. We don't want to tunnel on just one composition. We've seen this so many times before, and where the player after the game as well say, yeah, terrible pick and ban phase from us, lost us the game. No excuse anymore.
No, it can't be an excuse anymore, especially now with, part of the goal of the 2015 season changes is to increase the amount of strategic diversity, which is what the live design guys are talking about. And I think we've seen a fairly varied set of team comps throughout the course of the day, different play styles as well, almost disregarding dragons. This previous game, there's a lot of emphasis on dragons. So we'll need to see what SK and ROCCAT decide to do. SK traditionally have been a team that were weak in the laning phase and brought themselves back into the game through intelligent map play in the mid game. If you think back to Spring Split in particular last year, that was really how they made their claim to fame, how they managed to actually win the regular split before going into playoffs.
And that's why the current lineup looks so scary on paper, because they should have a better mid laner now. They should have a better AD carry as well in terms of the laning phase going in here, which means if they have the same map play, but can now get a lead early on in the laning phase because they have better players, that is such a hard thing to deal with, because what are you going to do? You can't beat them in the laning phase. You can't beat them in terms of like the rotation of the map play. How are you going to beat SK Gaming if it works for them? We still have to see what's going to happen when they actually play the game, because we look at ROCCAT as well, and we say they have just star players as well all across the lineup now. And if they can make it work in the laning phase and avoid doing what they did at IM Cologne, where it was just second and third game against CLG turned into solo queue games, to be honest, where they're just kind of running in one by one and dying. If they can avoid doing it, keep it calm, they also have a lineup which we should expect to be top 3.
And if Jankos continues to deliver, as you mentioned, if he's got that synergy of NukeDuck, if he's got the ability to get Forgiven fed, that could be the way he gets up there. Jankos, more first blood secured than I've ever seen in a short space of time. And this is just a guy who continually finds a way to make an impact, finds a way to read the early game, and is still one of the biggest proponents for Elise in the jungle.
Yeah, still.
He sings her praises all the time, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him playing her again.
No, it's a comfort pick for him.
Yep.
Simple as, I mean, he knows everything about it. Again, IM Cologne, he played it 3 times, even though nobody else really picked Elise at that point, at least not as high as a Java and all Lee Sin from him. But talking about pick and ban phase, I want to see what SK does with the support pick, because Janna should be the option for Enrated. He doesn't play Thresh, which Vander wants. Do they actually want to ban one of these supports away here and try and push Enrated or Vander on a different one? Or do they just trade supports?
We are about to find out the answer to that question, Deficio. Picks and bans has begun for our penultimate game of the day. Irelia taken off the table from Overpow as far as SK is concerned, and Graves removed from Forgiven.
So very specific ban here from SK Gaming. Overpow played Irelia at IM Cologne, and him and Jankos together threw a lot of early pressure, early ganks, got him going, and he completely snowballed the game as an Irelia can do. That's why SK banned the way. It's not the pick itself they're afraid of, it's more the combination of Jankos helping Overpow, giving him the lead, and him just taking over the game from there.
Well, we'll find out how the rest of the bans continue to play out. Zed, the follow-up from SK. ROCCAT taking their time on their second pick. Forgiven versus Woolite. Both new AD carries on their respective teams for this season.
Look at Enraid's face here. He's pretty confused.
Well,
Renekton being banned.
Come on, Freddy made his name on Renekton. That is
No, you don't ban Renekton just because you know Freddy can play it. Again, Gnar is open. Do you rather have Freddy on Gnar than Renekton?
Well, we don't know. We haven't seen Freddy's Gnar.
I will guarantee you he plays.
Freddy, of course, one of the other really, really top-tier top laners throughout the summer split. His Nidalee in particular was phenomenal towards the end of the year. For the first time, we see a blue side Rek'Sai ban. And the final ban from ROCCAT will be Azir. So that's also actually targeting their own champion pool, because Overpow did, of course, run that himself during the off-season.
But again, we see some different bans from what we've been used to in the last few weeks, looking at other regions. Kassadin being locked in is a little bit surprising to me, because as we just saw in the last game, it allows now the enemy team to pick two laners who can deal really well with the Kassadin, and at the same time, you shouldn't expect the enemy team to take him over Janna. You shouldn't expect to take him over Gnar or Lissandra here, or Sivir, which is also open for ROCCAT in this situation. So giving over Janna for the Kassadin first pick, I don't agree from SK Gaming side. I think they could have saved it for later.
Well, we're about to find out how the rest of the cookies crumble. As we've said, that flex pick. But this has been an interesting pick and ban already, with Renekton and Azir being taken off by ROCCAT. It's not something that we traditionally expect, and you were touching on the fact that Thresh, Janna, what support champion is Enrated going to play? This is a guy who ran support Galio last year. This is a guy that has played those oddball champions, so I wouldn't be too surprised to see him pulling out something shocking in this particular matchup in the first game of the 2015 season.
Normally the playstyle for Enrated is very disengaged focused. He doesn't really like to be the main engage. He used to be a big Leona player if you go a few years back, but he's basically been sitting on disengaged supports. Again, Morgana's been a big pick for him. Kale support, remember, he played it a lot. A lot of focus always on fairly passive play. Have your AD carry make the plays in the laning phase, and then you just protect him in the late game team fights.
Well, we'll see if they can actually make that happen. Again, really, really timed, slow-paced picks and bans. That's in a flame. Not really talking. Listening to Fox, who you can see is sharing his opinion. 10 seconds down, hovering through the picks. Lee Sin, one of the top-tier junglers, locked in. Last couple of seconds before they decide. It was, all right, let's see what they lock in now for SK.
Didn't actually go for it. Svenskon has been playing quite a lot of Car 6. And meanwhile, Kalista being locked in. That probably wasn't how it was supposed to be. We see the coach react instantly, and also SK Gaming pointing out to might have a remake of this.
Let's no, hang on.
Wait and see.
Let's not make assumptions.
Did not look intended.
Let's not make assumptions. I think if a player's made a mistake, I don't know if those are grounds for instant regame. Regardless, Kalista locked in for Forgiven. If anybody was going to play a champion that is slightly off the wall, slightly aggressive, that could be one of them. And you know what? SK ran the clock down the whole time. So we'll see how this works out.
Yeah, so not knowing what SK actually were going to pick on their side, but ROCCAT, they're getting so many strong picks here. Lee Sin for Jankos, he's most played champion. We talk about Elise, but it is Lee Sin that is his most played champion. And of course the Janna being locked in.
I take it back. We have heard we will be remaking Champion Select.
Normally when you pick a champion in LCS, you don't click random and you spam it for a few seconds and then you choose a champion.
Because he's right. I'm disappointed because he's right. So yes.
And we wanted to see Kalista.
Unfortunately, they couldn't lock in the correct champion, so we will run through those as quickly as possible. I want to see a Kalista in the hands of Forgiven as well. Somebody who is very aggressive, 5.1's got extra damage, but let's stop theorizing. What I do want to touch on is the fact that NukeDuck, he was hovering the Fizz just before we dropped out. I normally don't like talking about hovers, but if anybody was going to play an Assassin, it would be NukeDuck. It's his bread and butter.
But
He
LeBlanc is
prefers
open,
those.
Ari is open, a bit safer choice than a Fizz if he wants to blind pick his mid laner, because Kassadin, of course, is a flex pick and go both top and mid for SK Gaming. So I'm not expecting the Fizz. I think LeBlanc would be a safer choice for him. And also a champion where together with Lee Sin, you have one of the best 2v2 fights in this early to mid game, and you can just completely take over the enemy mid lane and the entrance to the jungle at Raptor Camp, at their Merc Wolves, of course, with that combination.
Well, we'll have to find out. We are hearing that picks and bans will occur exactly the same order up until the point that Kalista was locked in. So we'll need to see what that changes to. We did see Graves was taken off the table, so Forgiven's not going to be playing his Graves. We did see him playing a fair amount of Ezreal, of Jinx, of all the sort of meta picks last year. But Jinx was the one that he sort of fell back to. He likes his champions that scale into the late game. Forgiven's never really been a guy in the LCS stage that's pulled out the likes of Vayne, though. So he prefers those sort of longer range, potential spellcast type champions.
And again, also the play style from the Copenhagen Wolves was very focused on late game, so you needed that wave clear to come in. So Jinx with a static shift, or most cases for him, a Caitlyn obviously coming in. Strong laning phase, you can bully out the enemy AD carry, and you have that wave clear to kind of get to the late game point. You can fast push down towers. Was his go-to champion? It has been played more and more because Sivir has come back as a champion where Caitlyn has a very strong laning matchup against her. And we start here in 5.1, I think we're going to see a little bit more fast push, because you can get that early Baron as well if you get that lead and really start taking down these towers.
Well, we'll see if they actually can make that happen. Zed was taken off the table from SK Gaming this time round, so in terms of that split push or fast push or those kinds of strategies, they are minimized. So we're going to rush through these first few picks and find out exactly which champions SK will be playing. I do apologize about that delay, but we should be into game fairly shortly. Freddy is going to be locking in that Kassadin. And again, first pick Kassadin.
Yeah.
EU has always loved Kassadin, as have most of the world, but they haven't seemed to have given him up. The off-season has brought back a flavor of the month. Is that locked in from SK? It is. It's going to be a Lucian for Forgiven.
And people might wonder what happened to Corki, seeing as he's not being picked at all today. Was open here, Graves been banned away. Would have been a normal choice then for most AD carries around the world, but the change to his W, now it costs 100 mana, actually hit him quite hard in terms of his laning phase, because you really have to be careful now with how you use the mana. You can't really poke as much pre-level 6, so you are fairly weak in that situation. And then you need your level 6 point, get your Trinity Force, and you can have your big mid-game power spike before you really become powerful on Corki. And that's one of the reasons the EU AD carries don't really pick him anymore, at least not as high up there as the likes of Lucian or Sivir, which we have seen, which ROCCAT can pick. If they go Sivir and LeBlanc here, you have such a crazy pick comp, and you have so much engaged potential as well.
Well, we'll see what they decide to lock in. Just very quickly, Lucian was Forgiven's most played champion during the spring split. He played 11 games out of the 28, won 5, lost 6. So he's going back to his sort of bread and butter most played. We touched on the Jinx. I was thinking that maybe Forgiven would play it. Last second lock-in will be the Tristana, the little smug grin from the summer split Rookie of the Year. And that's some good late game scaling from ROCCAT.
Yeah, much needed as well. You have Lee Sin, you have LeBlanc here to secure the early to mid game for you, and now you have Tristana going into late game. Also looking at the side of SK Gaming, when there is a Kassadin this early pick, you know, okay, they are also aiming towards this late game and stuff, because you need that Kassadin to scale up. He's not going to be super powerful from the start of the game. So picking Tristana gives them a lot of late game power from ROCCAT here, and basically requires SK Gaming to rethink here. Do we now want to have more mid-game coming in to kind of follow up with the Lucian and try and stop ROCCAT from going to late game with Tristana?
Well, let's see what SK decide to lock in. They've got some decent engage. They've got power at different stages in the game, and now they've got a very beefy front line with Gnar, and that's most likely a Lulu support.
It is going to be a Lulu support, and actually now looking at this LeBlanc pick, we talked about it before, how it was more of a safe option. LeBlanc actually doesn't have a very good matchup into Kassadin. Kassadin does really well. He can easily out-farm her. He can even trade with his Q so easily with the LeBlanc. And that again shows NukeDuck and his confidence, saying, you know what, I can take this matchup. I've seen it before. It went in favor of Kassadin. Nope, I don't care. I'm going to take LeBlanc and show everyone how you play this.
And we'll see if NukeDuck can make an impact on those side lanes. If his one-on-one matchup in mid isn't going to go his way, he's going to have the option to roam and move around the map. So SK have rounded out their comp. I feel like they've got a little bit of everything. Engage, disengage, mobility, decent enough scaling. ROCCAT are running down the clock and deciding how they're going to round their team comp out. Theirs is a little more disjointed. With Lissandra, however, you've still got elements and emphasis of pick as well with both of those AP majors.
Yeah, definitely a lot of pick potential for them, and then you have Tristana for late game, and every single carry from your R ranged if you want to start pushing down these towers with Woolite. But SK Gaming, it's a very skirmish-focused comp from them. You don't really have the greatest siege because you only have Lucian to really deal damage onto the towers. Here, Kassadin obviously won't do a lot. You have a lot of catch potential with a Gnar, with a Jarvan, even Kassadin coming in. So it's going to be a lot of focus on picks and skirmishes from SK Gaming, where ROCCAT, on the other hand, again, you have this super strong mid lane synergy or setup with a Lee Sin and a LeBlanc to kind of try and shut down Kassadin. That must be the goal from ROCCAT in the early game. Pressure on Kassadin, make sure he never gets going, and take the game from there. And you have Woolite as your backup going into late game on the Tristana.
We'll have to see if the fact that they don't have that traditional front line causes them any troubles. So it is something we like to highlight. If you don't have somebody that can stand up to a Gnar or a Jarvan in this case for those Gnar Cataclysm combos, it could end up being quite scary. So picks and bans have been locked in. Going into this game, it was dead even, 50-50, according to the LOLesports.com votes. And I don't really know how to call it. I don't really know if either of these teams have got any sort of advantages, different play styles. You guys at home vote now that you've seen the team comps. Who do you think is going to come out ahead? Tweet us at LOLesports. Use the hashtag SKWin or use the hashtag ROCWin to see who banned Varus the most and who will come out victorious in this grudge match. SK went to Worlds after beating ROCCAT the last time they faced off. ROCCAT wants revenge and wants to kick off 2015 with a bang. It's SK on the blue side, it's ROCCAT on the red side.
Just looking at the start here, I'm a little bit surprised about no flask on Kassadin. It's typically what you see for this 1-5 or 1-6 before you have your ulti. But you see a lot of trading going on between these two mid laners. I want to see how Nuke Dog plays the matchup, because last few times we have seen it, it's gone heavily in favor of the Kassadin.
So we've got two very interesting lanes to watch between the top lane of Freddy versus Overpower, not only because of Overpower's role swap, but also to see how well Freddy is playing, or how good Freddy is performing in the 2015 season. And of course that bottom lane, let's be frank, we're anticipating Forgiven and Woolite to set their sights in the mid to late game. So let's see how those lanes pan out.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Lulu support. I feel like she gets out-traded by the likes of a Janna support with her shield. And you don't really have any sustain, so in terms of like pure damage or sustainability in your lane, you don't really add a lot. It's more like for the team fight itself, for the mid game from Enrated on this Lulu here. Then again, Tristana has received a lot of nerfs to her early games, so she's kind of lost a bit of her power there. Seems like ROCCAT wants to have a standard lane and SK Gaming does not.
Well, we'll see how the lane's set up about 20 seconds before those minions are spawning, or monsters are spawning in the jungles. But the one thing to note, I do feel that Crepo will have an opinion to share on this support Lulu. I know we were discussing it off air fairly recently, and
it wasn't very positive.
Shares the opinion, Deficio, that it's not the best pick at the moment. So, Enrated, we'll see if we can make it work. SK have sent their duo top, and we'll see how quickly Freddy makes it to the bottom lane.
So the way it can work as a 2v1 pick, as a lane swap pick, is Lulu has the ability to really fast push down waves, get to the tower, get a lot of damage on the towers as well. So we might see Forgiven and Enrated try and just fast push the top lane here, get an early tower, then swap back down to this bottom lane with a gold advantage, while Freddy on Gnar, one of the better 1v2 top laners because he can farm from range, he's fairly safe, even has the early level 2 from doing a jungle camp. Meaning, if you can defend that tower, you take the top tower and then you swap back and you actually won out on the lane swap.
Well, a lot of emphasis going to be on that first tower, and we'll see if SK can make that play happen. It looks like Enrated is already backing off. We'll see how quickly he can get to either help out or cancel it. Doesn't look to be the fastest of pushes here. Forgiven looking to last hit, so maybe not the strategy at the moment.
No, they're going to play it very standard here. You get level 2 on your support, you recall and you walk down to the bottom lane and you assist your top laner if he needs your help to farm. But for now, Enrated running towards the mid lane. He has picked up a few wards and you don't really need the wards on the bottom side. So I actually quite like if he goes in and places a pink ward around this mid lane here to try and set up a potential gank for Svenska.
Well, advantage to Freddy. He already did that jungle camp to get the early level 2. He's been in lane, soaking up some XP and trying to farm with that boomerang as best as he can. Overpower's only just made it to the top lane.
Yeah, but because in the top lane, SK Gaming was so late, so they didn't manage to get a freeze because they actually had to choose which lane to go to. I think they spotted ROCCAT moving to the bottom lane and then decided to go top. So no freeze, and seeing as Enrated decided to recall early on, they haven't denied anything from Overpower. The entire wave coming into him, he can just pick up all the farm now. Very safe, so not the best lane swap early. And I guess we can go back to the first thing I said. SK trying now to fast push instead and Enrated not going down to the bottom lane.
So finally getting around to
the mind
tactic.
games.
Took a little longer than maybe they could have done if they had committed to that strategy earlier. Regardless, we did see Nukeduck taking a lot of damage in the mid lane. He's been pushed back by Fox. He's burned through his potions and he's 12 CS down already. Changes to Cassidy a while ago have improved his laning phase, and Nukeduck's again in a little bit of a difficult situation.
It's just such a strong pick against LeBlanc because you cannot poke through his shield. You don't have enough mana to do it, and at the same time, which means you can just never stop him from farming. But Overpower and Jankos around this mid lane here. Svenska staying around as well.
Well, let's see the pot. Fox gets caught up. Svenska comes in with a good knocker. Fox still in trouble. Jankos is trying to get first blood. Will it secure? No! Fox survives with the potion. Now Svenska is in trouble. ROCCAT continuing to set sides. Jankos, can he do it? Decides against it. 2 near first bloods for Jankos, but nobody goes down.
No, but the early pressure on the Cassidy pick here, as we talked about, could be one of the reasons for the LeBlanc pick. You have the chain onto Cassidy here, pre-level 6, try and lock him down. Jankos and Overpower could then join in, but a nice counter gank from Svenska saves everyone, and Overpower just going back to this top lane.
So Overpower does use that teleport, got himself some biscuits, and will be defending against Forgiven and Enrated.
Okay, so yeah. SK Gaming decides to fast push the lane. Don't want to try and deny anything. This is what we talked about in the very, very start. You can't do with Lulu in a lane swap. That's why they keep pushing it down. Don't care about Overpower picking up farms. They just want the tower and then swap back down to this bottom lane. And that's also why Freddy's playing so aggressive, trying to push ROCCAT away from their tower here, making sure it stays alive.
We'll see if they can make that strategy work. I do want to once again comment on the fact that Nukeduck picked LeBlanc into Cassidy. That was a first pick Cassidy here for Fox. For SK Gaming's new mid laner, that's not something that you would say very often when Jesus was playing on the squad. He was seldom the sort of carry mid laner, often more utility based. And only really Ari being a sort of carry based champion. But we'll see how they handle themselves with this new player. SK Gaming still continuing to hold small advantage. They've sort of dictated the tempo. They've got some good damage onto ROCCAT's top
Once
tower.
again, around the mid lane.
Jankos, again, repeated ganks for Nukeduck. Not something we saw all too often last year. Overpower again, he's moving himself down to this mid lane. They really want to try punish Fox. They know he's got no flash available.
Overpower is basically just waiting for the minions to hit his tower up on the top side. That's why he keeps trying to go for this gank. But now he's going to lose out on so many CS. He should have just stuck to the top side, realize that your early gank on the mid lane didn't pay off, adapt to it, and at least pick up as much farm as you can on your Lissandra.
Yeah, definitely not the case. Not working out for them for the time being. ROCCAT showing where they want their investments to lie. None of them are paying dividends or returning a profit. So Fox continues to hold a CS advantage against Nukeduck in the mid lane. This Cassidy starting off decently well and without that crystalline flask that we were anticipating.
Yeah, didn't even have to use all his potions actually before the gank happened early on here. And Rated once again, he goes back, buys a few wards, places them around the mid lane to make sure they can see everything that's happening, and if ROCCAT once again want to try and gank this middle lane, and then he can just go back up to the top lane where Forgiven is already building up the wave for him to join in on.
Well, Vanda has continued to try poke Freddy out. Every time we catch a glimpse of this lane, Vanda is just way in front of the minion line, doing the best he can to deny Freddy, but level 6 has been gained, so now will be available for transformation. He's only a few CS behind that of Overpower. Overpower getting close to getting his Glacial Tomb available. Still a few minions away.
And Woolat actually decided now to skill up his E on Tristana. He didn't before because you don't want to skill it if you're sitting in a lane swap and you want to try and freeze the wave, because you obviously don't want the explosion on all these minions here. But he got it now after they realized how SK Gaming was playing the lane swap to actually start pushing it down. Probably get some damage on this tower once they come back to base, because you cannot risk staying in base. Once Forgiven kills that tower and he recalls, sorry, you cannot risk staying in lane. Once Forgiven kills the tower, goes back, gets an item, and if you're sitting on Dorn's Blade when he returns to lane, you're just gonna be forced out of it. So Woolat has to go back now. Smart choice, pick up a few items, then return to lane because he knows Forgiven is on his way.
Well, let's see how Woolite plays the lane matchup now that his opponent will be potentially coming down. They got them Zeal, got that pickaxe. You see that Fox has got himself Catalyst, the Protector. Nuke Duck, double Dorans. So gonna investment's going to be a little longer till he gets his item spikes. And again, a difference in jungle items between FLICKR and Jankos.
Yeah, but Woolite here, Seal is first item together with the pickaxe. Back when Static Shift was the normal second item on Tristana, now I say back, it's been like a day or two ago, but you would go for the Abyss Blade to get the extra gold income, and then you get like a pickaxe or BF Sword, and you would kind of try and farm as fast as possible towards the 2 item spike. He's going to do the same here. He just doesn't get the extra gold, but he actually gets more combat stats from his Seal. It's a lot more gold efficient in the stats it provides you, so it will make him slightly stronger than having the Abyss Blade, and obviously he's now looking towards Phantom Dancer and Infinity Edge we would expect from his first 2 items, and you just want to get to them as fast as possible. Not really teamfight before you have them.
Well, we'll see how much that Zeal's going to help, considering he's going to be up against a BF Sword, a pickaxe,
not a whole lot,
and a long sword from Forgiven. Woolite's getting some decent damage onto the tower. Opts to trade some damage on Freddy instead, but here comes Forgiven. He's moving to the bottom lane, and we'll see what support he can get.
All Freddy needs to do is just buy time, make sure the tower stays alive, and you won out on the lane swap.
That's a mistake.
That was a mistake here. Jankos getting the blue buff. I think his red buff took it in the very end. Not exactly what Nuke Duck needed in this mid lane.
Definitely not, considering the pressure that he had. So tower is up. Freddy has done his job. The strategy that SK employed a few minutes ago has worked out, and now with the numbers advantage, we're maybe making a move. Vander, that's a great Howling Gale. Doesn't get knocked up, but he's slowed. Everybody dives. First blood secured by FLICKR. Just way out of place and all too easy for SK.
Yeah, nice knockup, but not really paying attention to how many players SK has on this bottom side. They knew Forgiven and Enrated would show up, and Freddy was still sitting there. So just sloppy play by Vander, walking in, dying. Dragon for SK Gaming, top tower for SK Gaming as well. This is looking very, very good for them.
Yeah, very, very big misplay there from ROCCAT. We'll have to see if they can recover. They're 1,300 gold down. Lanes have gone in favor of SK. SK initiated the lane swap. They got the first tower. They saved their bottom tower. It's all been about SK. Nuke Duck, the only reason I think it's fair to say that he's even this close in CS is because there's been 2 roams and ganks from his teammates to help counterbalance the damage and the pressure that Fox was applying.
Yeah.
But he is keeping himself relevant. He's got that chalice, not really damage stats, but allows him to spam and farm and try to stay in lane even longer.
Look at Jankos here, going towards the top lane. A massive wave has been built up, and they want to try and force Freddy away before he can get any of the farm. Luckily for him, he plays the ward, smart play, knowing there's a chance of the enemy jungler being here, trying to do actually just kill or dive me before I can pick up any CS.
Well, Freddy continues to do well in this top lane matchup. You see once again SK setting their sights on the bottom half of the map. They're looking for Woolite. Woolite does have that flash. He does have the heal. Forgiven's got in. Woolite, Rocket jumps in. He flashes out. He gets taken out. Here comes Overpower. What can he do? There's so many members of SK. The Claw of Doom takes him way out of dodge. And SK Gaming secure a single kill and all of the pressure on the turret.
Just smart plays all around. Great shot calling from SK Gaming. Freddy goes to the top lane and says, okay, there's a high chance Jankos is here. I'm going to place a ward, avoid dying. Okay, enemy jungler is top lane. Svensson instantly just walks to the bottom side. Kassadin follows. You dive Rocket's bottom lane, kill them, get a big lead for SK Gaming. I mean, this is just great shot calling and knowing exactly what Rocket is doing on the map and how to counter it.
We'll have to see if they can keep it up. Every single time Rocket have made a move, SK have been able to counter and to accelerate their lead. It's now 2,000 gold. Fox goes back to the mid lane, and he's even going to be farming up this massive wave as well.
And that is an important thing about this roster change from SK, because they didn't actually lose anything in terms of shot calling or like the knowledge about the game, because they kept all the important members, Freddy and Rated, who are doing pick and ban phase, who are doing a lot of the calls in the game. They kept both of those members here and just build around that instead of replacing some of them and saying, you know, we want maybe a more flashy support instead of Rated. Kept him, relying on him, and it's been paying off.
Well, thus far, at least 12 minutes into the game, SK have come out swinging, and they've definitely stamped some control. Forgiven has already got a 20 CS advantage over Woolite. He's going to lose his tower in a moment, but he's got that BF sword, got those Berserker's Greaves, a lot of combat stats, and Woolite got that Avarice Blade, so it looks like he's still going for the Shiv, not the Phantom Dancer.
So he will actually go Shiv. Just a little bit weird he didn't go for Avarice Blade on the first back, just for the extra gold. Obviously, Zeal again is a better item, but still Static Shift will give him some decent wave clear, and ROCCAT will be needing it this game. Because he's going to have to sit back and just try and power farm on the tower and avoid SK Gaming taking down as many towers as they can while they're going to be stronger. Because Lucian is going to hit a massive power spike once his Infinity Edge is completed, and Willard won't be able to duel him.
Well, start of the game, we showed you the LOLesports.com vote, 50-50. Twitter is still completely undecided, based off picks and bans, just marginally in favor of SK. But I think seeing how controlled really this early game has been, there's going to be a few more believers. Hexdrinker picked up 4, Freddy's not. Still that Catalyst in Fox's back pocket. I think he should be getting close to that Rod of Ages, if not immediately. And of course, Nukeduck going to be getting towards that Athene's on Holy Grail. One thing to highlight is just how good Freddy is on split push champions. This time round though, it does look like he's caught out. Overpower's been stunned. Now Freddy's going to do a double stun. He locks up Overpower and Jankos. He crunches over the wall, manages to throw the boulder at Jankos. Jankos looking, the kick, kicks him to safety. Freddy doing work here in the spring split. Svenskeren comes back in. There's the Claw of Doom. Svenskeren goes down in the background, but Freddy gets himself 2 for 1. And SK with a good play in the top lane.
Such a nice play, just knowing exactly how much damage he can take, buying time for Svenskeren, who was running from his own blue buff up there to help him. 2 kills again. ROCCAT did try to catch out Freddy. Didn't work.
Yeah, you can't catch Freddy. Just really, really good plays. Manages to not
we learned that during Worlds.
Yeah,
not really gank Freddy or ban him.
No, you can't. And again, I keep talking about his Nidalee play, mostly because of just how dominant his presence was on the map. When he was playing Nidalee in the summer split, everybody had to pay attention. Everybody had to figure out how to deal with it. And right now, SK, they group up and they've got pressure on the mid outer turrets.
It's a great play here. Looking at the members from ROCCAT, LeBlanc can really wave clear when you're standing at her tower because he has to jump into your face, and Woolard is going to be the main wave clear together with Overpower. They were gone from the mid lane, so a quick little rotation from SK to get some damage on this tower here. Dragon spawning in 50 seconds. Go back now, buy some wards. If you are close to finishing a core item, do it now. Come back, set up your ward control, and be ready to fight.
Second time round, Nukeduck manages to secure his blue buff. No accidental kill secures there by Jankos. The CS advantage continues to grow for Forgiven. He's got nearly 30 CS in the lead. Warlight has got that static shiv completed, and a little bit of trading back and forth between Fox and Nukeduck. With Nukeduck's Athenes, he's got a tad more ability to trade and put damage down, but we're not expecting kill pressure really unless someone gets outplayed severely.
No, but a bit the same here for SK Gaming in terms of wave clear. They have to rely on Forgiven being in this mid lane, so ROCCAT decided to try and do the same, push it down, but realized there were too many people around. And instead, focus on this dragon. Teleport is ready for both of the top laners. Mega now was just popped over by Freddy.
There's something I do want to highlight. You're discussing the support Lulu and how impactful it's going to be in the mid game. You can see there's Ionian Boots of Lucidity picked up for him rated. No mana regen, no anything else. He wants the CDR, wants the movement speed. Overpower looking to chase Freddy, knowing Mega Nar's not available. He's got the support of Jankos this time round, and there's no flash. Freddy unable to stun anybody. Easily gets picked off, and that may be the cost of a dragon. SK get number 2, no one from ROCCAT around to steal. Actually a good play by Freddy at the end of the day.
Well, it's just ROCCAT saying we can't really fight for the dragon anyway. We just want our Tristana to sit and farm, get to the late game. We want obviously Nukeduck to try and catch up a little bit. He's done a very good job getting back in this lane on the bank, so now he can start setting up some plays. But this is ROCCAT saying, let's take a kill in the top lane because we won't be able to contest the dragon anyway.
Well, we'll see how they make it work. A lot of members of SK hanging around, waiting in the wings. We'll see if they can take flight. That was a little uninspiring. Fox forced a flash after moving himself in, and really I think that was a bit opportunistic. That was a flash distortion LeBlanc that could have got away. Regardless, Fox no summon a spell for the next engage, and ROCCAT now going to put some auto attacks down on this middle lane. You do see Svenskeren helping to wave clear thanks to that smite, but a good amount of damage by ROCCAT to reply.
You can always get a few hits on the tower. There's no instant wave clear from SK Gaming, and as you just mentioned, Jarvan can provide quite some. Has his sword and obviously the smite AoE damage from his Trailblazer, which actually has been the go-to item for Jarvans today. No chilling smite any longer, but it's also because SK Gaming were going for the lane swap. So Svenskeren knew he wasn't going to be too active in terms of ganking early on, so he goes for the farm-heavy item and just sits at power farms in the jungle, only goes to counter gank if needed, and let the rest of his team do all the work in the lane swap.
And of course, changes to that Chilling Smite. Movement steal instead of the very, very powerful slow. You do have to say that Svenskjæren's jungle decisions and counter ganking have been significantly better than Jankos this game, despite the fact that we were very heavily praising Jankos coming in, at least from an LCS perspective. But truthfully, Svenskjæren deserves similar levels of praise because he was just as good at many times last year. But look at Woolite, forced away from the Infinity Edge damage that Forgiven's putting down.
And I quite like that Forgiven is actually getting lifesteal as his second item here. He probably won't complete it before. Oh, let's see, Freddy.
Oh, Freddy gets caught up. Gets held in place. Nas overpower against the wall. Overpower doesn't manage to get the Claw of Doom out, but a crunch from Freddy gets him to put some space, and that's again 2v1 that Freddy manages to come out ahead. Oh, it's not over yet. Nukeduck trying to get some damage down, forced to back away.
So again, what Forgiven is doing here by getting a lifesteal item after the Infinity Edge is because he's going to be sitting in the mid lane, pushing it in, and trying to poke down this tower. So you want to have some lifesteal because you will take a few hits back in your face when you're trying to do some damage and you constantly wait there. Lifesteal it back, stay in the mid lane, keep the pressure up. So I actually quite like it. Should be going into an attack speed item though before he completes a BT.
Well, we'll see if he decides to stick with that plan. Fox was pushing down the bottom tower. The rest of SK pushing up the middle tower. Freddy's return top. That's a lot of damage from Nukeduck onto Forgiven. It should be enough to defend the tower. But ROCCAT really just playing with scraps at the moment. They're 2,000 gold down. Woolite still only sitting on 2 parts of the Infinity Edge and no BF sword. It's going to be a while before he has that sort of similar level of gold. And there's the hint towards an attack speed item. It's an Avarice Blade first for Forgiven. So again,
pretty big hit.
Not seeing the Phantom Dancer yet.
Oh, will be Static Shift again. A lot of these AD carries, they want to go for this a little bit cheaper attack speed item, give you a bit more power in the mid game through like the upfront burst you get from a Static Shift, compared to Phantom Dancer, which give you more overall single target damage. But they're all building for this mid game instead. That's why the teams are being so aggressive as well and making or trying to make some plays. ROCCAT with a very nice push on the mid lane just before though. And now SK is back, doing exactly the same again.
Well, let's see if SK can secure this tower. They've got the numbers advantage as ROCCAT are still a little split up in the jungle. Tower's got the shield there from Janna. We can see Overpower waiting in the wings. He wants to come in.
Not enough
going to be able to. And ROCCAT lose the tower.
Again, you can't. When there are 5 members standing here, Lissandra, a bit like LeBlanc, has fairly short range on her wave play, so you have to play very safe. Woolite as well staying back. He's down to 50% HP, meaning a tower for SK Gaming. And they've been working on it for like 2 or 3 minutes by constantly moving and get a few hits, back away, and now they saw the opening, picked up the tower. All outer turrets are gone now from ROCCAT.
Luckily for ROCCAT, they did get a lot of damage onto SK's mid outer turret, so just a gentle breath of air should knock that one over. The minute and a half before the next dragon, ROCCAT need to get themselves either some vision, or as you know, we heard Unlimited saying, because it doesn't give gold, you don't need to contest the dragons as long as you don't give up 5. That's the trick. But if you can take towers, if you can keep relevant in gold, that's really what matters. ROCCAT, they're dancing a very, very fine line with that theory.
Yeah, and seeing as SK can just keep Freddy one-on-oneing Overpower, and they can even have the casting against the LeBlanc as well, they don't really have to give up a tower for Dragon because they should be able to control the side lanes at the same time with teleport. Nukeduck jumping in, picking up the tower himself.
Style points. Manages to get that auto
Still
attack.
though, Dragon 55 seconds here. Yes, you can give up a few dragons early on because they don't give that gold, but it's a ticking time bomb. Once you get towards like the 4th dragon, the 5th dragon of course is the deciding one. At some point you have to just go for a fight, and if you're too far behind and the enemy team has all these buff from the dragons, you will end up losing it anyway.
Well, we'll see what ROCCAT decide to do. 30 seconds before the next one spawns. Overpower's got himself a Morella Nomicon. He's got that arm guard. And we see Nukeduck working his way to a similar sort of position. Actually grabbed himself a Soul Stealer. He needs the power. Maybe that's a signal they want to fight at this next buff. That is a risky buy for Nukeduck. He wants it to pay off. He wants the power now.
Yeah, it is still gold efficient when you buy it after the changes because you start on 5 stacks. But once you die, you lose half of them, so it's a bit of a risky buy, but it really shows how ROCCAT know at the moment. They're going to have to try and take some fights. Infinity Edge is complete on Woolite, so they're going to be fairly strong for this dragon here. No Hourglass, though, from Overpower.
Well, Infinity Edge plus Shiv for Woolite, as you highlighted, Forgiven.
I mean, if they win this fight, they're back in the game. They might even be in the lead just because Nukeduck has that Soul Stealer. But if they lose it, is looking very bad.
That's a very, very big if. Nuktak gets some good damage onto Fox, boots him in place. But you see Jankos going to the aid of Nuktak's LeBlanc. Overpower and Freddy doing a dance in the middle lane. 4 members of SK. They're going to start off the Dragon. Fox is alone in the pit before the rest of the team decides to move in there. Let's see how this plays out. ROCCAT trying to set in. Nuktak is going to try to dissuade Enrater, but they're too late. They're too slow. Dragon number 3 secured by SK, and truthfully, that was all just awkward. ROCCAT flirted with going in, but decided against it.
I couldn't really find an opening. There was a lot of wards around spotting them as well, so SK could see Overpower if he wanted to try and flank around. Same for Nuke Dog to jump in, so didn't really find an opening. SK just actually grouped up in the Dragon Pit, said, okay, come at us. We're going to take the fight if you want to. And very important also, Svenskeren going towards the LOCCAT here against a double AP, even static shift from Tristana, and some of the magic damage he does deal. Really means the LOCCAT is going to be so powerful.
And truthfully, if you're sitting on the side of ROCCAT, you don't want to be picking a fight in a narrow river corridor against a Cataclysm, a Wild Growth, and a Gnar, Mega Gnar. The amount of chain CC and hard stuns and lockups that can come down is just very, very high. So ROCCAT, they're close enough on gold. They're keeping this sort of 2,000 to 3,000 gold difference. Really as close as you can get. Freddy continues to defend his top lane tower. SK got 3. Let's see if Overpower can... This is the ice shot. We'll pretend we didn't see that one. But of course, ROCCAT really just... They're being bullied around the map, and we haven't seen them make a play. They've tried to gank Freddy, but it's not been the most successful or the best decisions, really.
Oh, Freddy, he's trying to bait it out, so he's going very aggressive, trying to force Jankos actually to go on him. Well, rest of SK are here.
Let's see what happens. Overpower's in trouble. He's going to go down that glacier tomb. Jankos kicks Svenskeren back, but it's too little. It's too late. ROCCAT, they want the fight now. Woolite's in trouble. He gets Cataclysm down. Monsoon is going to heal him just a brief moment. Jankos is low in the background, but we see Freddy is in trouble. The next victim will be Woolite. Why are ROCCAT fighting? Vander flashes, gets cold
sitting in the
by
mid lane.
Forgiven.
Four
and
people.
That's the first triple kill for Forgiven in the 2015 season. That's going to be a Baron as well.
Such a nice setup again. Freddy playing way too aggressive in the lane because he wanted Overpower and Jankos to jump him. As soon as it happened, well, the rest of SK joins in, clean up the fight completely. Woolite is not strong enough, being caught in weird position as well. He's standing in the front as the Tristana here, and Forgiven on this Lucian, really using his mid-game power so well.
Somebody needs to ask ROCCAT why they engaged a completely grouped SK after losing Overpower, simply not in the right place. Here's the fight again. Sufficio, try make it make sense.
Well, again, so Freddy's been baiting it, Overpower's being caught out of position. Now he's obviously just dead, trying to get away in the very end. Won't happen. As soon as he dies, rest of ROCCAT just needs to disengage. But because they see the Kassadin on the bottom side of the map, they actually think they can take the fight. They're just still so much weaker. I mean, look at Forgiven in this fight here. Jumping in and out, killing everyone. Nobody can take down Freddy or Svenskeren.
Triple kill.
Absolute destruction. 25-minute Baron for SK Gaming. This looks to be another very one-sided matchup where the team in the lead is just going to steamroll down their opponents. The Baron buff and a sizable gold lead now. Let's see where SK set their sights. Inner turrets are available in all 3 lanes.
Let's do a 1-3-1 here for SK now. Put Kassadin in the bottom lane, Gnar in the top lane with his teleport. Forgiven stay with Enrated in this mid lane and just push it up. This Lulu pick, we were talking about, yeah, laning phase, Lulu's not very strong. She gets outlaned by most of the other supports. But because Enrated has been playing, or SK Gaming has been playing like the fast pushing game, first the top tower in the lane swap, then the bottom tower, and now the mid lane, it's just been paying off because he sits there, disengages, pushes in the wave every time he has the chance, and it opens up everything for SK.
And of course, knowing that Lulu's not great in the laning phase, SK just lane swapped. They played that tower game relatively slowly. It felt like it took a few minutes for them to decide to commit to it. But SK get
They're also free to do whatever they want to because Jankos and Overpower kept walking mid lane, trying to get a gank, and it just didn't work for them, so there's no pressure on the side lanes early on, and SK Gaming fully controlled the lane.
Oh, look at the damage. Forgiven is really just putting a beating down onto ROCCAT. SK grabbed the inner turret uncontested, the inhibitor and the inhibitor turret just uncontested after a little bit of poke. And SK definitely making use of that Baron effectively.
Yeah, just getting Baron buff so early. Again, the enemy team, they're not strong enough to deal with these powered up minions and the champions coming in with them. So ROCCAT just had to go up the tower, not enough instant wave clear for him to fall this far behind and still try and come back. They need SK Gaming to just overdive them, pick up a few kills on Nuke Dog with his Soul Stealer, otherwise the game is over.
Yeah, the threat of the giant Gnar in the background, keeping ROCCAT at bay. Gonna wait for that to try timeout. SK Gaming secure another turret with a buff. They've got a minion wave to work with. We'll have to see how and when they decide to push out that bottom lane. But for the time being, a minute before the next dragon, that'll be number 4 if you're keeping score for SK Gaming. And it looks like that's where they potentially want to set their sights.
Yeah, once they get the dragon here, 6 minutes before the next one, the crucial one for your 5th one. Should actually be timed pretty well with Baron respawning. Take the Baron, you go down, take the dragon, you get both the buffs, and then you should be able to push for the finish here, because ROCCAT won't be able to fight for this dragon either.
Happens to everybody, happens to everybody, even the best of us. But you know, I want to quote what Enrated was saying in the pre-game video, how Fox, came up from SK Prime. He was the mid laner that sort of completed the team, that just fit in with everybody. He's 1-0-1 in this Kassadin. It was a first pick. While it's not been the deciding factor in the matchup, he's been in the right place at the right time. The team decision, the teamwork and the coordination across the map has been on point. And SK have roamed, they have rotated.
The shot calling has just been so much better.
Exactly, very, very good call.
It's not about individual players here, it's just shot calling, the team game, knowing your comp and how you want to play it from the lane swap, from the items to buy level 1, being it the trailblazer for Svenska on Java so you can get a bit more farm, or being it the Lulu pick to fast push down. It's just been such a well-played game by SK, and they'll leave nothing for ROCCAT to do.
Yeah, very, very strategically thought out game. SK are inches away from their first victory in the spring split. And so far, the grudge matches have gone the way that they did last year as well. Copenhagen Wolves beat H2K, albeit dramatically. SK Gaming are yet again ahead of ROCCAT. This time, convincingly, truthfully, as it was in the Gamescom playoffs as well. Can't deny that. But if you look at the minimap, SK don't have the deepest division. They don't need it when they got a 9k gold lead.
Just get the last outer turret here, and then you can either play it safe and wait for next dragon to spawn, or you can just keep pushing your advantage because you're so far ahead. I mean, look at Forgiven on this Lucian as well.
302, 340 CS next to the 270. Culling used to once again put some damage down onto the ROCCAT members. Baron has since worn off. But look at the burst, 50% of Woolite blown up before he can even get in range.
And again, also good item choices by SK, getting early kills on Enrated against Alessandra here to cleanse her ulti if she ever wants to try to get. There it is!
Oh, Enrated the one that's been caught out. This is a desperation fight for ROCCAT. Overpower throws down the hourglass. He'll be the first victim despite engaging the fight. And Freddy is continuing to buy time. The super minions on the Nexus turrets for ROCCAT to deal with. And SK Gaming seem to be in complete control. They did trade 1-for-1. Let's see how much work Woolite can do. The super minions continue to pressure. Look at the minimap. Turrets have dealt with him thus far, but SK, they look to be re-engaging on this inner turret.
He's staying around here. Forgiven is still very healthy, and it's all about Woolite trying to wave clear. Not enough minutes here. SK can just back off here, wait for this dragon or the Barons to spawn, get an objective, and then go for another push.
Well, decent enough engage from ROCCAT, 1-for-1. Luckily, Woolite, having that very long range of Tristana, continues to defend the tower, but unfortunately, SK unable to dominate even further in that bottom lane. Not too much damage in the turret either.
Yeah, but the mid-game items again also for SK, we talked about it a few times already. It's paying off for them because they keep playing so aggressive, they keep forcing the pushes or the fights. At the static shift instead of Phantom Dancer for Forgiven on Lucian. Sunfire Cape instead of Randuin's Omen from Freddy here. It's cheaper items, not as strong, but you get them before earlier. You can get a third or fourth item completed way before ROCCAT can follow, and thereby get the lead.
No, we've definitely got that being the case. Morelli Nomicon and Hourglass for Overpal. We have that Locket sitting on the side of Jankos. The Soul Stealer, 1.5 stacks as far as Nukesack is concerned. Finally got himself that need to see large rod, but truthfully, he's nowhere near the damage that he needs or wants. It does look like they've caught Vander. Vander's going to be the first victim, just way out of place, way out of dodge. He's losing that member. ROCCAT now most likely going to be unable to defend a potential Baron. What will SK do? Are they focusing Inhibitor? That seems to be the case.
Straightforward. Take Inhibitor, go back to Baron, pick it up, go down, take your Dragon, and go for the finish.
Sounds like a nursery rhyme. Is it that simple? Well, not really. It's taken half an hour of setup Look at the burst. Inhibitor secured. Back away for Baron.
I want to see Overpower just go for home guards here and just try some crazy flank around engage whenever SK actually pushes up to the base. Trying like instant kill Forgiven or instant kill maybe, I don't know, the Kassadin, the Lulu, whatever. Just try and get an early kill from the flank around because you have to try and do something. You can't just sit back. SK will just destroy your base.
Well, ROCCAT's engaged previously in the bottom lane. Did seem to work out. It was 1-for-1. He did manage to defend the turret. SK is shredding through this Baron. It's down below half health, denying the vision. Keep in mind, everybody for ROCCAT is alive. Let's see how this plays out. Mega Gnar. Crunch comes down. Freddy is knocked away. This is the Dragon's Rage kick, but ROCCAT are in full retreat. SK have set their sights on a fight. We'll see if ROCCAT get away all right. It does seem to be the case. SK continue to be grouped up. 1:40 for Dragon. Baron is live. SK have the pick and choose of what they want.
If they go back to the Baron here, there's a massive wave on the bottom side, which has to be dealt with by ROCCAT. And for now, SK Gaming realizing it, going straight back here, playing out a few more wards, quite a few in the Baron pit itself. But they're just waiting it out as well, because they know they can keep starting Baron over and over and force ROCCAT to come and fight them.
Well, we'll see. They're doing it again. ROCCAT, again, a little bit splits up. Warlight to the front line, tanking up some damage. Baron has been stopped. SK have once again peeled away. Warlight this time round is very, very low on HP. It looked like Freddy had kept the Baron reset, but it has now gone back to near full HP. The Baron dance continues, 34 minutes into this game. ROCCAT trying to find a way in.
For now, though, because the bottom lane have been pushed back, we actually see SK go back to base. Go back to full HP by a few more wards. We have 3 sweepers and 2 warding totems from them. So far, not upgraded actually, so don't have the pink ward from them just yet. And they're all full items, so not a lot of wards being bought here by SK Gaming. Funny enough, a thing they didn't do last year either. Who needs wards when you can just out-rotate the enemy team anyway?
Yeah, I remember talking about the Vision game from SK at Gamescom last year. And Rated pulled me aside and tried to defend his position, but truthfully, they don't ward enough. As a team, SK tend to have very good decisions. They tend to understand what's happening, but they seldom have the greatest vision control. Let's see, Nukeduck manages to get the Ethereal Chain locked down onto Fox, which allows him to escape, but a little bit more passive, a little bit more tentative play from SK.
Well, this is what we talked about, how you can play it a bit safe once you sit on 4 dragons, knowing you can just wait for the last one to spawn, pick it up, and force the enemy team to take the fight. ROCCAT is moving down. It could go horribly wrong for them.
We are about to find out how this goes. They've gone onto Enrated. That's a Glacial Tomb on the support, but Overpow's the first victim of the fight. We see Bandit going down next. Jankos, Warlight, Nukeduck doing the best they can to run away. Forgiven flashes over the wall. The building doesn't connect, but it's not needed because Fox cleans up house. Nukeduck's going to be the next one. We'll see if he gets nuked down. He does get slowed. Fox has been scared of sides. That's the clone, the flag, the drag. That's 4 for 0.
That's game.
Everything thrown at Enrated, and he gets away. SK Gaming onto the Nexus turrets. They'll be looking to close out the game in style.
Such a strong performance. I mean, from level 1, they knew exactly what was going to happen. There was no answer from ROCCAT. Jankos might even end up dying here. Nope, stays alive. Saves a few fantasy points.
Saves a few fantasy points. Indeed. SK Gaming onto the second to last turret. Second to last objective of the game. Freddy goes forward. Jankos will give up those fantasy points eventually. His Mega Gnar transformation happens. And SK actually back away just a little bit, playing this one a tad safer. Warlight was back up and didn't want to get those resets from Tristana. So SK going to be happy with the push thus far, but it is their game to lose. They're in absolute control.
They're just going to go back now and do the exact same shop. Actually, ROCCAT has an opening now where they can try and rush this dragon and avoid SK getting it. They just have to try and go for it.
And we'll see if they do. Banda's in place at the moment. There was some vision. Overpower and Warlight is there. This should
just start it. All right, they got it.
Let's be frank. It's very little. It's very late.
It is. It just means SK won't pick it up, and instead they instantly just go for this Baron. Forgiven actually stayed around to the red buff. Life still back up to full HP, and Baron instead picked up for SK. So ROCCAT avoided them getting the 5th dragon. Couldn't really avoid them getting the dragon.
Yeah, and they lose a Nexus turret as well. Super minions doing work in the base. ROCCAT are so far behind. Going to be evaluating the decisions, going to be evaluating all of the calls this game.
You have to look at the pick and ban phase.
SK's just run them in circles.
It was very clear they had a plan with the LeBlanc pick where they were going to camp the mid lane early, try and get Nukeduck ahead. But it simply meant that Overpower, instead of him just staying top lane, and picking up all that farm that was being pushed into his tower. He actually, well, he was slightly ahead of Freddy, but he could have been very far ahead before all that farm he could have gotten. He went mid lane a few times, didn't pay off. Jankos went mid lane, didn't pay off. So the whole tactic of camping the Kassadin just failed from the start, and then SK Gaming got a massive lead already 20 minutes into the game.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And Nukeduck, unfortunately, not able to carry his team. Defensive, strong play by Fox. And I think you have to go back to that first sort of counter gank by FLICKR. That really, really could have tilted the game in one direction or another. And it ended up being in favor of SK. So props to Sven. Inhibitor gets dropped in the middle lane. SK Gaming moving up to the top lane to set their sights on the next objective. Remember, there are no Nexus turrets. Baron buff is up. FLICKR. Cataclysm is available, decides against it. There goes the gnaw backwards. Cataclysm goes down in the middle of the team fight. Forgiven melts Vanda. Inhibitor goes down. ROCCAT are in retreat. That's a good slow from Fox. It's not going to matter. SK Gaming pick up the first win of 2015 by defeating ROCCAT convincingly in a well-controlled, well-coordinated match.
Yeah, never really any question here of who was in the lead in this game from the get-go. SK Gaming looking so strong, and a very good start for their new players as well. And kind of looking at your roster and saying, we know we have some good players, we know we can become a top team. Getting such a good start against ROCCAT, where a lot of people expect to be up there as well. Perfect.
Stern looks from Woolite. Definitely not a happy camper. We were expecting more from ROCCAT, to be fair. We were anticipating a higher level, but SK had a game plan, they executed it. The lane swap went well.
First pick Kassadin ended up paying off for SK, even though we have seen it before.
I mean, look, it wasn't the deciding factor.
No, of course not.
And I think in this setup, in this game, despite the fact that you could be critical of that support Lulu, it worked.
Yeah, I mean, the way they played it was perfect.
Yep.
I was talking about him in the pure laning phase against the Janna. You don't really have much to do, and that's again why they go for this fast push instead. All in all, SK Gaming from item builds to lane swap, it was perfect, it was pre-planned, it worked out for them. ROCCAT took a bit of a chance in their pick and ban phase. Couldn't get the kills early on for Nukeduck, even had to buy a Soul Steal to try and get back in the game, which I don't even think he got a single stack on.
No, 1 assist to his name. Nukeduck returning to the LCS. Not in the shiniest of fashions. Forgiven on the other hand, 5-0-7, got himself a triple kill that game. You know, this is a guy that we keep quoting Reckless, but again, you know, Reckless is the most hyped European EU AD carry, and he gives Forgiven a lot of praise. The vote, 50% split. We were split. We expected more from ROCCAT. 52% of the picks and bans. It's going to be completely different after the way that match played out.
Yeah, SK Gaming really looking solid here. We can talk about Fnatic from earlier today.
Yeah.
Dominating elements in their game. So currently, Fnatic and SK Gaming are in the top. It's been the same if you look at least a year back. Now we just need elements to kind of join them, and it's all the same. It's all good.
We need to see. The one thing that I do think stands out from the games that we've seen thus far, 3 of the 4, the team that has got the advantage has closed relatively effectively.
Yeah, new Baron.
One of the biggest problems that we had as a region in the summer split is so many European teams really didn't know how to close games. Now, I know this is super early on and these are fairly one-sided victories, but the Baron, the changes to Baron, the new season, and the fact that these teams have been training and scrimming and new players, it seems that teams can close more effectively. We'll disregard Copenhagen Wolves H2K because of team comps, but still, you know, the other 3 games.
I mean, if you do look at all the teams in the EU LCS, and this is one of the reasons I was so hyped for the season to start, I feel like we have all the best players in Europe in LCS at the moment, except for one challenger team, Origin, of course, with FLICKR and Soaz and Mythi and so on. They are not in the LCS. Then we can look at a few free agents, Taps, Dexter, Rest. In here, it's fully packed. The mid lane is crazy. We're going to see so many assassins being played left and right, which will always create a lot of action. And often it will snowball in one's favor when you play these risky mid laners. And also the Baron early on. Because it's weaker, because you can take it if you get the lead at 25 minutes, that helps you so much pushing the advantage.
And something else that I do think we need to call out. Europe has never really had the best top laners. You know, we've had standout players here and there, but it's not really our thing. This time round, I feel like there's new blood, there's new contenders, you know. Oda Wamne is bringing some fun. Visit Chachi's going to, you know, bring some excitement. You've still got the stalwarts, Wicked's up there, Freddy's up there, but we could be looking to some more fun and battles and changes in the top lane, which is something that we've traditionally been a little behind some of the other regions when you look at the big picture.
Yeah, the top lane picks, especially today, has been a little bit more exciting. Maokai, of course, not available. He's been disabled. One of the... I wouldn't even call him a boring top laner, but he doesn't have the same as like a Nara coming in there. Even a Lissandra, that creates some action. So I like the top lane meta as it is at the moment because it is hard engaged. It is focused on being in the front line and starting fights. And it makes them a very exciting games and also makes you see a big difference in top laners. If you have a weak top laner, you will get punished so hard in the current patch.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that trend does continue because as you say, it was a lot of tanks, it was a lot of just sort of frontline bruisers. But the successful players are having to diversify, are having to play both bruisers and AP champions, which is a great change. And then some returning old faces, like you said, all the players. So SK Gaming, they do pick themselves up a win. I'm double-checking their schedule for tomorrow. They will be opening the day against Meet Your Makers. Meet Your Makers who had a tough loss. And again, SK, and Rated said it, they want to be top 3. They want to go to Worlds again. Freddie also said it was a disappointing Worlds for them last year for obvious reasons, and I think we'll need to see how they handle themselves throughout the rest of the split.
If they keep playing like this, again, shot calling, pick and ban phase, everything worked, then they definitely will be one of the top teams.
Yep, we'll have to find out. For now, let's turn our attention to the analyst desk, where one of the new members of SK is joining us to talk about that game.
Thank you very much, Quickshot. And indeed, we are joined here by Forgiven. Once again, very glad to have you back.
Well, Forgiven Gree right now, right?
Yeah, Forgiven Gree, sorry. Very good to have you back in the LCS. Congratulations. I think you can be pretty happy with that re-entrance to the LCS. How do you reflect on your performance in that one?
Well, I think that my team played really good, and that was just like a part of it, and maybe even a minor part of it. Like we lane swapped, and we tried to give advantages to our solo lanes, and like we wanted to sacrifice ourselves. It's like team spirit in the end. So my team was really successful on it. And in the end, I also benefited from that, and I feel really amazing because it was a team effort, it was not individual.
Yeah, it definitely was from the beginning on. A very good pick and ban phase for you guys as well. Tell us how that played out, because it did definitely seem like you guys got your plan and you got it exactly like you wanted.
Well, it's the first week of LCS. Like we don't have the biggest screen or the biggest knowledge of what teams are playing because scrims are not spectatable and stuff, and we just basically went through the instinct and we just wanted to get ROCCAT out of a comfort zone. And I think we managed it, especially on the mid lane part where Nukeduck ultimately failed, I think, for me, even though I think he's one of the best players that Europe has ever seen on mid lane.
So what was the main reasoning behind the lane swap early then? Because in my head, would you have preferred to lane this? If it was just up to you, would you play the 2v2 or would you lane swap?
Yes, but as I said, it's a team call, and I have to say, in the past, I didn't used to respect Ule, and now that I see the effort that he puts into the game, I really want to play 2v2 against him after our match against Niall. I think we were gonna have one more chance of doing that. And as of lane swap, we just thought that ROCCAT would not expect a lane swap on the blue side of the map.
Yeah, I definitely think that could have caught them off guard. I think I just want to go to the first real big play in this match that really struck me out is the way Freddy was playing this entire game, like Forgiven highlighted us already. This was a team effort from SK Gaming. They played it really well. If we can get the first replay on your screen right now, it is basically Freddy's been playing like a rock this entire game, and we can roll the clip right here. He's in Mega Gnar form, and ROCCAT's trying to shut him down. He did collapse here with Jankos, with Overpower, and they should always be a kill, but they line up perfectly. He spaces his abilities, hops over the wall, and you see Svenken is still so far, but somehow Freddy managed to survive here. And I think this really speaks in what Forgiven said earlier. This is just a really good team effort from SK Gaming, and they're reacting to everything perfectly.
I agree. I think that since my time in Copenhagen, I remember that we had a great difficulty playing against the synergy of Svenskar and Freddy on top lane. And I feel that even in real life, when we are just practicing, that these guys are one. They're not two people, just different. And I think it paid out in the game.
So it's more fun to be on this side than playing against them.
I absolutely agree.
What
with
a bait from you there. Talk me through then, you get that initial advantage, and it seemed that you said you were a team, one cohesive unit moving forward, but the shot calling was completely on point. Are you taking that role on now that you're in there? Is it Fox or who is it?
I think everyone chips individually, but in the end we have the more experienced players of the team, like Enrated, who just won I don't know how many splits actually with Fnatic, and he with SK, and Freddy and Svenskeren. All these guys are really important for us to succeed. And like I take a small part, but I can't say that I'm a big part of it, you know. It's the start.
Now with patch 5.1 coming in, we see the nerfs, the buff on Phantom Dancer, but you still opted for the Shiv mid game. Can you explain to the crowd why you did that and what the reasoning behind that was?
I think that my mindset is like this. If I can get Shiv and I can get one more item after it, I will definitely go for Shiv. If I back, like, let's say, with some X gold and I have money for Phantom Dancer, I will just buy it immediately. And Shiv gives a greater spike mid-game, so if I was in a position that I had to spend money only on Phantom, I would just go for it. But ultimately I bought Shiv plus pickaxe and stuff.
Yeah, and it worked, so you held out your own, and then in the end we saw SK come out on top, and I think that's our last replay. If we can get up the screen right now. Forgive, I just want you to talk us through that last team fight. That's going to come on the screen right now. So this is the first replay identically again, so we've seen that one already. I think we need to switch over if we possibly can get the other one on our screens. If not, if you still remember the last stages of the game, what was going through your head? You know, how did you guys win those fights in the end? What was your team comp's purpose?
Going all in.
Yeah, I mean, we prioritized objectives, and ROCCAT gave us space to work with, and what was really important for us, we expected it to be a bit more difficult, but ultimately they were behind from the lanes, and the gold advantages, and like on how we played the fights, like they had Tristana, a champion that scales to late game, and I had like 2,000 or something difference in the AD carry role, and same for mid. So we just snowboard our advantage. Like even if someone dies, the others will benefit from it because we have to overcommit.
Yeah, read the game perfectly. Good job. One final question for you specifically. It was a long time coming. A lot of other AD carries have been singing your praises. Do you feel that you have stepped into this season of the LCS with a different outlook, a different view on things than the first time around?
I think LCS is like a high-level competition, so it's all about adapting. Like it doesn't matter what the meta has right now. If I think, or someone thinks that it can be successful, like let's say someone goes out and picks Varus tomorrow, which I wanted to be buffed actually, if Riot can hear me.
Duly noted. Retail, please.
Yeah, I mean, the AD carries and all the professional players have just to adapt to it, and every single champion on AD carry is really fun to play, so I don't see like the bad thing behind changing champions.
Yeah, that's what I heard. A lot of options for the AD carries and a lot of good AD carries in Europe, so very interesting. Congratulations for Given.
Thank you.
And, well, hopefully we'll be seeing a lot of those flashy plays coming out of you. Coming up next, we have a clash between Gambit Gaming and the Unicorns of Love. According to LOLesports.com, you think the newcomers, the Unicorns of Love, will take this one. So stick around and see if you're right when we return.
Guys, it is time for a bout between two returning LCS teams. It is SK Gaming and ROCCAT. This is the grudge match. He locks up Overpower on Jankos. He crunches over the wall, manages to throw the boulder at Jankos. Jankos looking, the kick, kicks him to safety. Freddy doing work. They want the fight now. Woolite's in trouble. He gets Cataclysm down. Monsoon is going to heal him just a brief moment. Jankos is low in the background, but we see Freddy is in trouble. The next victim will be Woolite. We are about to find out how this goes. They've gone onto Enrated. That's a Glacial Tomb on the support, but Overpower's the first victim of the fight. We see Vander going down next. Jankos, Woolite, Nukeduck doing the best they can to run away.